Hello everyone! Before we start, let's predict the topic of our presentation by watching this video. Pause the presentation and click the link provided in the forum. If you are guilty of living an Insta lie or know somebody that is, then this video is most certainly for you. There are some of the funniest and most common Insta lies posted on social media. Now, can you predict the personality of those people in the video? Do they need attention, popularity, or trying to be in the flow? Why they are doing that? This question can be answered firstly by explaining the concept of impression management. Then we will consider how impression management correlates between different personalities and how accurate they are. Therefore, today me, Symbat, and Inken prepared for you the presentation on impression management on social networking sites and hope that you will enjoy it.
Here's a short overview what will expect you. First, we will introduce you into the topic by telling you a definition of impression management and the theory behind it. Further, we will give you some information about the studies, which are called Another Brink into the Facebook Wall, how personality traits relate to the content of status updates, and the study Facebook profiles reflect actual personality, not self-idealization as well. These studies deal with impression management on social media and the connection with personality. And in the end, we also thought of some discussion questions for the forum for you, so stay tuned. Before we start with the studies, we'd like to introduce you to the topic what impression management is really about. So here is a definition of impression management, which says that impression management, also called self-presentation, is a conscious or unconscious process in which people attempt to influence others' perception about a person or object or event by regulating and controlling information and social interactions.
If you still don't have any idea about impression management, I recommend you to have a look at this photo.
The theory of impression management was first conceptualized by Irving Goffman in his work, The Presentation of Self in Everyday Life. He said that people always present themselves as positively as possible to others, and besides that, people in a community must select relevant and appropriate information or pieces of information for their self-presentation to be then consistent with the group. And because of providing personal information, you gain acceptance through extensive self-presentation, and that facilitates the establishment of relationship with others. In addition, people not only try to convince others to see them as a respectable and trustful individual, but they also want to maintain an established desired positive image. So you can say that the main aim of impression management is to steer others' impression with the use of controlling information or photos and videos to present them in a proper way in social media. This leads to following questions or following research questions, which the following studies have examined. First of all, how does personality affect impression management? And second, how accurate are self-presentations?
Let's move to the first study. Another brick in the Facebook wall, how personality traits relate to the content of status updates by Winter, Neubaum, Eimle, Gordon, Thiel, Hermann, Meinert und Kramer. So, what is the study about? Many previous researchers examined the effects of personality on general social networking sites usage. These studies mainly focused on static profile features like profile text or picture or the number of friends. However, the present study investigated the relationship between personality traits such as extroversion, narcissism, self-efficacy, need to belong, need for popularity, and the number, content, and style of status updates. According to Costa and McRae, one dimension of the five-factor model of personality is extroversion. It is the individual's tendency to be outgoing and engaged in social activities. Extroverts benefit the most from using SNS social networking sites since they are able to extend their networks and pursue their communication needs with these technologies. In contrast, introverts using SNS have been assumed to benefit more since these platforms compensate their communicative defects. With regard to status updates, extroverts post more status updates than introverts, since they offer an ideal venue for establishing and maintaining social contacts. Authors further assume that their nature leads them to divulge more intimate information in status updates, in the sense of depths of self-disclosure than introverts. Therefore, hypothesis 1 states that extroversion is positively related to the number of posted status updates and to the depths of self-disclosure in status updates. The second personality trait is narcissism. Narcissism is an inflated self-concept, such as overestimation of intelligence and attractiveness, and a strong sense of uniqueness and superiority. According to Bufferdy and Campbell, people with higher degrees of narcissism were more attractive on social networking sites and displayed more self-promotional content on their static profiles, because they constantly seek attention, admiration, or affirmation of their positive view of themselves. Moreover, they engaged in considerable self-disclosure and positive self-descriptions in order to arouse attention. Therefore, hypothesis 2 states that narcissism is positively related to the number of posted status updates, and people with higher degrees of narcissism include deeper self-disclosures and more self-promotional content in their status updates. Efficiency of self-presentation. It is subjective beliefs in one's own competency. Based on this concept, only individuals who perceive themselves as capable of a specific task are likely to engage therein, while individuals who perceive lower degrees of self-efficacy will try to avoid the specific task. Therefore, authors assume that people with high efficiency of self-presentation more often post status updates than people with low self-efficacy. Due to their confidence in self-presentational skills, it can also be expected that they don't pursue the cautious strategy of presenting only superficial messages, which are widely acceptable. It leads us to the third hypothesis that states perceived efficiency of self-presentation is positively related to the number of posted status updates and negatively related to the mass suitability of status updates. Individuals with need to belong to community might use status updates to feel as a part of a community and be able to maintain a connection with weak ties. The higher the user's need to belong, the greater their preference for more intimate communication features on SNS, such as private messages. Therefore, others assume that status updates are not utilized more frequently by users with higher need to belong, but if they decide to post something, their messages are likely to have more mainstream-oriented style and also involve deeper self-disclosure, which can help to initiate and maintain social contacts. Hypothesis 4 states that need to belong is positively associated with the degree of the mass suitability and the depth of self-disclosure in status updates. People with a high People with a high need for popularity try to present themselves as socially connected and are prone to following trends or groups just in order to avoid exclusion. While being related to narcissism, need for popularity doesn't include a feelings of superiority, but merely the wish to appear socially accepted. People who strive for popularity make use of self-presentational opportunities of status updates, selectively emphasizing positive aspects of their personality. Therefore, Hypothesis 5 states that need for popularity is positively related to the number of posted status updates and the use of self-promotional content. In order to investigate these hypotheses and compare the relative influence of personality traits, authors set up an online questionnaire in which personality variables and Facebook use were assessed. Participants were asked to post their last 3 original status updates. Using a multi-methodological approach, we combined participants' self-reports on personality traits with a content analysis of their status updates. The online questionnaire were distributed via Facebook groups and online forums at a large European university. It was filled out by 173 participants. One person who was younger than 18 years was excluded from further analysis. The main age of participants were 25.95 years. 102 of them were female and 70 were male. As regards to qualitative analysis, only participants who had revealed status updates were taken into account. This resulted in a sample of 116 participants. 72 of them were female and 44 were male. So, how authors assessed the personality traits of participants. Extroversion was assessed with the NEO-FFI scale. It consists of 12 items measured on a 5-point scale, such as I like to have a lot of people around me. To capture participants' narcissism, they used the NPI 16 scale in a translated version. For 16 opposing statements, participants had to decide which applies best to their character. For example, I know that I'm good because everyone keeps telling me so, versus when people compliment me, I sometimes get embarrassed. The perceived efficacy of self-presentation was assessed with Milkey's self-efficacy scale. Participants rated 12 statements like, in many situations, I'm able to stress positive aspects of my personality on a 5-point scale. Need to belong was measured with 10 items, such as, it bothers me a great deal when I'm not included in other people's plans, which were rated on a 5-point scale. The need for popularity was assessed with 7 items like, I've neglected some friends because of what other people might think, honestly. After participants sent their last 3 status updates, each status update was categorized by 5 independent coders: depth of self-disclosure, self-promoting content, mass suitability, disclosure of emotions, and the topic. Depth of self-disclosure. Coders evaluated the depth of self-disclosure in each status update using Likert scale from 1 to 7. Based on conceptualizing by Altman and Taylor and Cosby, we define depth as a degree to which private or intimate information is disclosed, ranging from superficial statements, for instance, on the weather, or a medium level with information or opinions that one would share with loose acquaintances, to the core layer with personal beliefs or emotions. You can see the examples on the screen. Self-promoting content. It's believed that self-promoting messages would include explicit mentioning of successes or positive characteristics, whereas a medium level would promote oneself implicitly. Ratings of the coders were summed up to a mean score. Here you can see the example of self-promoting content. Mass suitability. With regards to mass suitability, it was evaluated to what degree the message appears to be acceptable for a huge audience and for different groups. High mass suitability implies that the statement is understandable for everyone, for example, Happy New Year to everyone, whereas the messages from medium levels are tailored to a more specific group. For example, at the lower end, you add insider information or statements which are not understandable for most people. Disclosure of emotions. Coders assessed the degree to which positive and negative emotions were included in the status updates. As regards topic, to assess the topical dimension of status updates, authors developed a coding scheme which comprised 8 categories. This refers to diverse topics such as social life, entertainment, or personal issues. And each status update could be assigned to only one category. Let's move to the results. You can see here different tables of results. You can pause the video and look closer to them. So, how authors assessed the personality traits of participants? Extroversion was assessed with the neo. Let's go back to our hypothesis. Hypothesis 1b, Hypothesis 2b, and Hypothesis 4b predicted that extroversion, narcissism, and need to belong were positively associated with the depths of self-disclosure. Results also show that people with higher degrees of narcissism and greater need to belong disclosed more intimate information in their updates, which supports H2B and H4B. The effect of extroversion was not significant, so H1B has to be rejected. For the degree to which the message contains self-promoting content, authors hypothesized positive effects of narcissism, which was hypothesis 2C, and need for popularity, which was hypothesis 5B, and they were accepted. The final model of regression analysis showed that narcissism was a significant predictor, indicating that updates posted by people with higher degrees of narcissism contained more self-promotional content. It supports hypothesis 2C. The effect of need for popularity was in hypothesized direction, but was slightly beyond the conventional level of significance. So I indicated hypothesis 5B with yellow because it's neither accepted nor rejected. Regression analysis also showed that self-efficacy was negatively related to the level of mass suitability, suggesting that messages written by people who feel confident in presenting themselves are less tailored to the mass audience, supporting hypothesis 3B. Need to belong was a positive predictor of mass suitability only on 10%. So it doesn't provide solid support for hypothesis 4A. Perceived self-efficacy didn't influence the number of status updates, which rejected hypothesis 3A. In line with hypothesis 4B, the need to belong emerged as a significant predictor of depth of self-disclosure. Need for popularity didn't affect the number of status updates, which is against expectations of hypothesis 5A. In summary, extroversion was neither related to the number of status updates nor the depth of self-disclosure, which rejects the hypothesis 1A and hypothesis 1B. Instead, narcissism emerged as a strong predictor of status update usage. The findings that narcissism was related to the number of status updates as well as to the depth of self-disclosure and self-promoting content supported hypothesis 2A, B, and C. With further investigations, One idea of future research can be interplay of perceiving others' profiles and messages. For example, if Facebook users see that a lot of friends post positive updates about successes or social events and thereby tend to do the same, why they are doing that, and how other people's posts influence to our self-presentational behavior. Further studies will deal with these questions, and personally, I think it will be a very interesting topic for the investigation.
Now I'm going to continue with the study Facebook profiles reflect actual personality, not self-idealization, by Stopfer, Vasil, Geddes, Schmucke, Egloff, and Gosling. So what was the study about? This study dealt with online social networking sites, or the short form OSNs. Those OSNs are nowadays integrated in our modern social interactions. Further, it is used as a primary medium for communication. So the aim of the study was the research of the question if those OSN profiles convey accurate impressions on profile owners. In other words, is your social media profile accurate to your actual personality? So there were two kind of contradicting assumptions of how social media profiles reflect people's personality. The first hypothesis was the idealized virtual identity hypothesis. The second is the extended real-life hypothesis. Let's have a closer look on the hypothesis. The idealized virtual identity hypothesis suggests that OSN profiles reflect people's idealized characteristics, but not their real, actual personalities. Furthermore, personality impressions based on OSN profiles should show more likely how people wish their ideal self would be, rather than what their actual personality is like. On the other hand, there's the extended real-life hypothesis, which claims that people indeed express their accurate personality characteristics in extended social context. So they're not only managing information about their real personality on their profile, but they're also integrating information about their personal environment, private thoughts, facial images, and social behavior. This hypothesis even gives a counter-argument to the idealized virtual identity hypothesis, saying that people's reputation should be hard to control, and so it should also be hard to create an idealized personality. Regarding the method, 236 OSN users in the age between 70 and 22 were recruited. 133 of them participated in the USA and 103 in Germany. In addition, the researchers examined the most popular OSN platforms of these countries, which were Facebook in the USA and StudyVZ, or rather SchülerVZ, in Germany. To determine the accuracy criterion, they now collected data from self-reports and reports from 4 close friends with the TP and the USA. In Germany, they used the short form from the BFI-10 and the NEO-FFI to collect the data, and to obtain now the accuracy criterion, they also used self-reports. Doing so, they tried to capture the real personality of the programs, and on the other hand, researchers also measured the ideal self-perception by rephrasing the TP and the rating instructions. For example, test persons had to answer items like, describe yourself as you ideally would like to be. So now the investigators had information about how the people really are from self-reports and reports from other people, but also how they wish to be. After that, observers rated then their impression of the profile owners. Let's continue with the analysis. The accuracy of personality was determined by correlating aggregated observer ratings and the accuracy criterion of the TP, or rather the BFI and neo-FFI. The partial correlation between profile owners' idle self-rating and aggregated observer ratings calculated the effect of self-idealization during the accuracy criterion was controlled. Furthermore, the significance was tested using a one-sample t-test. So, what were the results? Based on the analysis, there were following findings. After correlating the accuracy of personality with the observations, the extended real-life hypothesis can be supported. On the other hand, there was no evidence found for the idealized virtual identity hypothesis, which makes kind of sense because, if we remember, those hypotheses were kind of contradicting each other. So it seems that people's online profiles reflect more likely their actual personality than an illusion of how they wish to be or an idealized version of themselves. And even when the self-idol ratings were controlled, the effect of actual personality on OSN impression remained significant. Regarding personality characteristics, the strongest accuracy was found for extroversion and openness, and the lowest for neuroticism. To sum up, OSN profiles are not used to promote an idealized personality. Instead, it could be an efficient medium for expressing and communicating real personality. Furthermore, the researchers give a prospect for the online social networking sites research. They suggest to investigate in future also older users and other OSNs, as well as other personality traits. In addition, there should be research for other forms of impression management and the role of specific profile components. And the individual differences among targets and observers should be explored. We also have some discussion questions for you. First of all, we'd like to know what you think about impression management. Do you see more advantages or disadvantages? Then think of your own Instagram profile or other OSN profiles. Do you think that those reflect more your actual personality, or do you tend to create an idealized version of yourself on social media? And last but not least, based on your post on social media, to which personality type do you belong? And do you agree with the types? We are looking forward for your comments in the forum. Thanks for your attention.